Christine Brown, the once devoted third wife of Kody Brown, continues to capture attention long after her emotional departure from the polygamous world of sister wives. As the franchise evolves and new layers are peeled back, fans find themselves stunned by Christine's growing candor. In one of her most startling and emotionally resonant reflections yet, Christine has dropped what many interpret as a deeply loaded hint, one that may change the way fans view Kody and Robyn's early relationship forever. A recent revelation seems to suggest that Christine suspects, or perhaps knows, that Kody and Robyn may have engaged in some form of premarital sexual experience, breaking one of the core tenets of the religious lifestyle they've long claimed to uphold. And for a woman who tried to play by every rule while her emotional and physical needs were often unmet, the implication is not just controversial, it's heartbreaking. The relationship between Christine and Kody was always layered with contradictions. From her earliest appearances on Sister Wives, Christine presented herself as someone who believed wholeheartedly in the principle of plural marriage, viewing it as a spiritual calling rather than just a romantic arrangement. But time, reality, and perceived betrayals would wear away that certainty. Her courtship with Kody was quick and, by her own admission, not romantically charged from the start. It was based on spiritual compatibility and shared values, not on chemistry or personal attention. Over the years, Christine admitted to feeling invisible, emotionally starved, and undervalued, not just by Kody but by the plural family system itself. So when Robyn entered the family as the fourth wife, the atmosphere changed drastically. Unlike Christine, Janelle, or even Meri, Robyn was not raised in the same community that molded the earlier wives. She was newer to polygamy and had previously been in a monogamous marriage. This background made her different, and for Kody, that difference appeared to be intoxicating. Almost from the beginning, Robyn was treated with a level of affection, attention, and deference that none of the other wives received. Fans noticed it. The wives noticed it. And most of all, Christine noticed it. The controversial nature of Robyn's courtship and marriage to Kody has long been a point of speculation, but Christine's latest comments have set off a firestorm. In a private interview filmed during one of the last seasons Christine participated in, she made a series of cryptic but powerful remarks. While speaking about how she struggled with the timeline of Kody's bond with Robyn, Christine subtly questioned whether their connection had crossed lines that were supposedly sacred. Without directly saying the words, she hinted that something might have happened between Kody and Robyn before their wedding that wasn't in line with the values the family professed to uphold. Her voice wavered with emotional fatigue, her words carefully chosen, but the underlying message was clear. If rules were bent for Robyn, it explained so much of the favoritism that followed. The idea of a premarital sexual relationship between Kody and Robyn is scandalous not just for what it implies about their personal integrity, but because of the damage it would do to the image they've long projected. For years, Kody has claimed that he and his wives abided by strict religious guidelines when it came to courtship. Physical intimacy before spiritual marriage was off the table. Publicly, Robyn and Kody both repeated this stance, stating they didn't even kiss until they were married. But Christine's words have cast a shadow over those declarations. If what she suspects is true, then the entire foundation of Robyn's entrance into the family is not just shaky, it's hypocritical. More importantly, Christine's veiled comments don't come across as bitter accusations. They sound like the aching reflections of a woman trying to make sense of why her marriage was so different, so distant, and ultimately so disposable in Kody's eyes. She had waited years for validation, for affection, for even basic respect. Meanwhile, she watched Kody drive for hours just to see Robyn, while he barely tolerated spending time with his other wives. She saw him hold Robyn's hand in public, kiss her, fawn over her children, and build a monogamous cocoon around her that contradicted everything the family once stood for. As the seasons progressed, the favoritism became more than just emotional. Turned logistical and financial. Kody invested his time, energy, and money into building a life with Robyn, while the other wives were left to fend for themselves, often in rentals or RVs or temporary homes while the dream of a united property fell apart. Christine bore witness to this shift in real time. She watched her daughters be cast aside emotionally. She saw herself slipping into irrelevance within her own marriage. Her decision to leave was not born out of impulsivity. It was the result of years of feeling neglected, ignored, and ultimately replaced. Now, reflecting on her journey, Christine is using her voice in a way that she couldn't when she was still under the weight of polygamous expectations. She is freer, emotionally lighter, and more empowered than ever before. But even in her liberation, there are wounds that run deep, especially when she thinks back to the rules she followed so carefully, and the possibility that those same rules were not applied evenly across the family. It's not just the suspicion of a physical relationship that stings, it's what it symbolizes. A different standard, a hierarchy, a betrayal of trust. Christine's evolving openness is part of a broader transformation she's undergone since leaving Kody. From her romantic relationship with David Woolley to her renewed commitment to self-love and happiness, she's rewritten her story from one of quiet suffering to joyful autonomy. Still, moments like this, where past pain surfaces in the form of veiled accusations, remind viewers that her journey has not been without scars. The suggestion that Kody and Robyn may have had some form of premarital sexual intimacy is not just a bombshell about them. It is, at its core, a reflection of Christine's own grief over being held to a higher standard than the woman who ultimately dethroned her. Robyn has not publicly responded to Christine's subtle insinuations, but her long-standing image as the most favored wife has only intensified the debate. Many viewers believe that if any bending of the rules occurred, it would not be shocking given the special treatment she seemed to receive from the very beginning. From the private courtship meetings that didn't follow the same transparency the earlier wives experienced to the rushed nature of her marriage to Kody and her quick legal adoption of his children, Robyn's presence changed everything. And for Christine, that change marked the beginning of the end. Christine's remarks have ignited a wider conversation within the sister wives community about honesty, transparency, and fairness. Longtime fans are now rewatching early episodes with fresh eyes, searching for subtle signs that may validate Christine's suspicions. The timeline of Robyn's courtship, the speed of her transition into the family, and Kody's overt favoritism all seem to take on a new meaning in light of these revelations. What was once chalked up to infatuation now feels like possible deception. What seemed like romantic fervor may now be interpreted as guilt-driven urgency to cover tracks and legitimize a bond that was already formed. For years, Kody insisted that his romantic decisions were guided by divine prompting, spiritual discernment, and fairness. But Christine's unspoken truth challenges that narrative. Kody broke one of the most serious rules in their faith for Robyn. It would explain his obsessive loyalty to her. It would explain why he refused to discipline her children while growing distant from his own. It would explain why he refused to hold her accountable, even when she undermined the unity of the family. In essence, Christine's subtle accusation, whether based on confirmed knowledge or instinctual hurt, calls into question everything Kody ever said about honor, spirituality, and equality within his plural marriage. Christine's transformation from silent sufferer to bold truth-teller is something fans have admired. In many ways, her willingness to break away and speak honestly has liberated not just herself, but also Meri and Janelle, who have since distanced themselves from Kody. As more truths come to light, viewers are increasingly realizing that the family they followed for over a decade was not as unified as it appeared. There were cracks in the foundation long before the walls collapsed, and Christine was among the first to say it out loud. The latest fallout from Christine's words may not lead to official confirmations, but the damage is already done. In the court of public opinion, her voice carries weight. Fans are angry, sympathetic, and curious. They want to know what really happened between Kody and Robyn. They want to know how Christine endured so much while quietly upholding the rules that others may have discarded. And above all, they want Christine to keep talking. Because her voice, once silenced by obligation, now echoes with the truth of a woman who found her strength not in obedience but in liberation. Whether or not Kody and Robyn will ever address Christine's pointed remarks remains to be seen. But even without a confession, Christine's words have already shifted the narrative. They've reignited the debate over spiritual hypocrisy, favoritism, and double standards in the Brown family. And they've reminded viewers that sometimes the most powerful truths are the ones spoken softly, wrapped in pain, and delivered by someone who's finally free. In the aftermath, Christine continues to thrive. Her life with David Woolley seems filled with the kind of romance and respect she never received from Kody. She smiles more. She laughs louder. She speaks more freely. But even as she moves forward, she carries the memories of what she endured. Memories that fuel her mission to help others find their voices, leave toxic relationships, and believe that healing is possible. In her most recent chapter, Christine Brown may have hinted at something taboo and unspoken, but in doing so, she also reminded the world that telling the truth, even painfully and imperfectly, is the most radical act of all. When Sister Wives first premiered in 2010, the world was introduced to a family dynamic that was both unconventional and deeply rooted in religious conviction. The center of the Brown family was Kody Brown, a man who openly practiced polygamy as part of his fundamentalist Mormon beliefs, and his then 3 wives, Meri, Janelle, and Christine. But it wasn't long before a fourth name began to reshape everything the audience thought they understood about the Browns: Robyn. Her introduction to the family, and particularly to Kody, became a defining moment that not only altered the structure of their relationships but revealed deeper currents of emotion, favoritism, and division that would unfold over more than a decade of public life. The initial presentation of Robyn's entry into the Brown family was cast in spiritual language. Kody was said to be following divine guidance in pursuing her. He and Robyn met through church connections, and viewers were told this was a courtship grounded in faith, intention, and family values. But even in those early scenes, there was a visible difference in how Kody treated Robyn compared to how he had interacted with his other wives. From the start, there was a sparkle in his eye, an excitement that hadn't been present in his dynamic with Meri, Janelle, or Christine for some time. Robyn brought a fresh energy into Kody's life, and he seemed captivated by it. What the audience couldn't yet know, however, was just how much that captivation would reshape the family. Robyn herself came into the family with a different background. She had previously been married and had 3 children. Unlike the other wives, Robyn wasn't born and raised within the same polygamous community, and her experience with plural marriage was minimal. But she presented herself as someone eager to be part of the lifestyle. She spoke about wanting sisterhood and spiritual growth, yet her actions often painted a different picture over time. Kody's connection with Robyn intensified quickly. While with his other wives, courtships were practical and emotionally reserved, Kody's courtship with Robyn was filled with flirtation, long talks, and frequent visits. He would travel for hours to see her, staying longer than expected, returning late, and often ignoring the needs of the wives and children at home. This level of attention didn't go unnoticed. Christine, in particular, struggled deeply with the visible shift in Kody's behavior. She had married Kody with the belief that spiritual commitment and fairness would guide the family, but Robyn's arrival shattered that belief. Christine would later admit that she felt replaced, like her value in the marriage had been diminished the moment Robyn came into the picture. Kody was giddy and romantic with Robyn in ways he had never been with Christine. Even during family gatherings or public events, his body language betrayed an emotional preference that grew more obvious with time. Robyn's official entrance into the family was marked by a ceremony, and later a legal marriage that replaced Meri's position as Kody's legal wife. This decision was publicly framed as a legal necessity to allow Kody to adopt Robyn's children from her previous marriage, but to the other wives and fans, it symbolized something more troubling. It marked Robyn as Kody's primary wife in both law and affection. The romantic gestures, the one-on-one time, and eventually the separate home she shared with Kody all reinforced the growing divide between her and the rest of the wives. Over the years, viewers began to see Kody spending most of his time with Robyn, especially after the family moved to Flagstaff. While the others were often left to manage alone, Christine in Utah, Janelle in an RV, Robyn and her children had Kody consistently by their side. The emotional fallout from this favoritism was immense. Meri, who had already struggled with her place in the family after her legal divorce from Kody, found herself increasingly isolated. Her attempt at emotional intimacy through an online relationship scandal only deepened her estrangement. Janelle, the most independent of the wives, tried to stay neutral but eventually admitted that she, too, felt the growing imbalance. Christine, whose marriage had once been seen as emotionally strong, finally reached her breaking point. Her decision to leave was not just a personal one, it was a public statement about the dysfunction that had taken root in what was once promoted as a spiritually driven, united family. Robyn's role in this transformation cannot be understated. Though she often portrayed herself as someone caught in the middle, merely seeking peace and fairness, many fans and even her co-wives began to see her as a central figure in the unraveling of the Brown family. She often cried about wanting the family to work, about missing the closeness between the sister wives, but her lifestyle never reflected the sacrifices the others had made. While the original wives raised children in modest homes, sharing kitchens and parenting duties, Robyn came into the picture with a desire for privacy and separation. Her home was more luxurious. Her time with Kody was uninterrupted. Her influence on family decisions was undeniable. Kody, for his part, never denied his closeness to Robyn. As time passed, he even began to speak openly about how aligned he felt with her. He praised her loyalty, her obedience, her team player mentality, phrases that increasingly came across as coded criticisms of his other wives. When the pandemic hit, Kody implemented strict rules that only Robyn's household seemed able or willing to follow. This gave him further excuse to stay almost exclusively at her home, isolating him from the rest of the family even more. Janelle and Christine voiced their frustrations openly. Their adult children, especially Gabriel and Garrison, became estranged from their father over his one-sided devotion and controlling behavior. Robyn's marriage to Kody, in essence, became monogamous in practice long before the other marriages officially ended. She was the wife who got the most of him, his attention, his time, his emotional availability. And Kody seemed to grow more and more comfortable with this reality. His own statements in recent seasons made it clear that he no longer saw plural marriage as viable. He claimed to be exhausted, betrayed, and emotionally worn down. But this exhaustion did not extend to Robyn. With her, he appeared calm, engaged, and even hopeful. The irony is that Robyn, who had once claimed she joined the Browns to live in a plural family and provide her children with that experience, ended up living in a dynamic that looked very much like traditional marriage. And while she expressed sorrow over the loss of her sister wives, her lifestyle didn't seem to shift dramatically. She kept her husband. She kept the emotional security. She retained her position both as Kody's legal wife and his emotional center. For Meri, Janelle, and Christine, however, the cost was immense. They lost not only their marriages but also the vision of family they had built their lives around. Kody and Robyn's relationship from the very beginning seemed built on something deeper than spiritual compatibility. It was romantic, intensely personal, and far more exclusive than any of his other relationships.